I want to hear how you think they cheated, outside of the popular opinions, i.e. Yuji's body swap and Mio's simple domain. Well, I think it's time we look into this. In chapter 250, Yuta said something very, very interesting, and that was that they cheated when Sukuna asked them what they'd been doing for the past month. Now, Yuji tried to be the nice guy and said hard work and determination and perseverance, but let's be real, that's most likely not happened, because the growth that these guys have seen over the past month has been ridiculous. Now, looking at everything realistically, the heroes have gone from being able to be one-shot by Sukuna to, at any given moment, now being able to stand toe-to-toe with him and heal from his slashes, giving them an actual fighting chance. So how do they do it? Well, let's take a little peek into all of them. First option they might be viable with is actually Mio's domain in the actual mentioned question here. If you don't remember who Mio is the sumo wrestler who Maki encountered in her fight with Naoya, cursed Naoya. He's the owner of a domain that basically acts as a hyperbolic time chamber. Now, by the time it took 1,000 bouts of sumo to have occurred within Mio's domain, less than 1 minute had passed within the real world. Now, this allowed Maki Zenin to fully awaken and understand her powers of heavenly restriction, which the results, it ended up in her becoming a fighter equal to the likes of Toji Zenin, which is a pretty terrifying thought considering the damage Toji Zenin did to the world when he first appeared. Which begs the question, if Maki was able to achieve this, imagine what would happen if, say, Yuta or Yuji or anyone else was able to use their domain to their advantage, to this advantage. We know domains can capture more than just one person. Mio's domain is no different. I would hope so, and I'm imagining so. So let's say two people agree to a sumo bout, but one extra person allows themselves to be caught within the domain here. Mio could essentially spectate or even help with the training of the students within his domain, and they could get serious reps and serious hours of training within this domain within no time at all. Now, just for clarity, I went and googled what the average sumo match, how long it would last, what it would look like. Now, according to Google, the higher tiers of sumo wrestling can last up to 4 minutes, but a lot of the lower tiers last somewhere in between seconds, which, let's say we give a conservative guess here and say that these students are around medium-sized level when you compare them to the likes of Gojo and Sukuna. They're not going to last the 4 minutes fighting each other, but maybe they might last, let's say, 2.5 minutes. But still, and Mio at one point did even say that he hasn't had enough sumo. He hasn't sumoed enough, and if you're wondering if he did survive the fight with Naoya, we see both Daido and Mio are actually well and truly alive after the fight. However, Daido is actually kind of missing a hand or two, but it could be healed, potentially, who knows? So that's possibility number one here. But what are the other options? What could these students have also done to gain such a power boost? Well, we never found out what happened to the front of the prison realm, and we know time doesn't flow inside of the prison, and Hikari once mentioned how they could use almost like a time machine. They could use this like a time machine, which is pretty plausible. It would also be pretty iconic if the students ended up becoming stronger from the very cursed object that Kenjaku used to depower them of their strongest fighter. However, I just don't think it's simply possible. And why? Well, back in Shibuya, Kenjaku mentioned how only one occupant could use the prison realm at any given time, meaning the students wouldn't really be able to train with each other, or they would have to go in alone, and they would only be able to increase those skills through just like meditation. I don't know how they do it, but it really wouldn't be that worth it for them. So that's option 2 out of the way. But what else could have happened? Well, option number 3, and possibly my favorite, is a binding vow. Now, it's possibly the most unlikely, so take it all with a pinch of salt here. This one, it's definitely a shaky theory at its best, but it's one that has apparently been circulating around the Japanese Jujutsu Kaisen community, and the theory basically goes like this. Upon Gojo's death, the students would receive an increase boost in power due to Gojo's death. Now, I think this theory sounds the most shaky out of all of them. It's something I'd personally like to see come into fruition. Binding vows, they've been used for all manner of things throughout the Jujutsu Kaisen series here, so it's not outside the range of possibilities. We've seen Nanami use a binding vow to limit his power until a certain time had passed, allowing him to use everything, all of his power all at once. And we've also seen Meimei's Bird Strike utilizing binding vows as a way to turn a simple crow into a missile that, according to her, only Gojo Satoru has been able to survive so far. Even noting, by the way, how Sukuna opted to shoot down these crows out of the sky before they got close, meaning that the trade-off for a binary vow of death must be an incredible boost of power if that's what it does for a crow. Now, imagine what would happen if, say, a human did that kind of thing. We already saw something similar for Yuta, where he was about to trade off his life in exchange for removing the limiter on Rika's power way back in Jujutsu Kaisen 0. So it's not something that's never not happened before. So if Gojo entered a binding vow with his students to do such a thing, the trade-off would obviously be massive here. However, this situation, it could have only applied to a certain amount of students, I imagine, who are going to fight Sukuna, and not just everyone encompassed in this. For example, Yuji and Yuta right now, who have been jumping Sukuna, they might have been a part of this vow, but Hakari, for example, may not have been included as he was tasked with jumping Uraumi instead. This is just a theory, I don't know. Maybe a binary vow could encompass all of them, but who knows? The theory is shaky at best, and honestly, I'd say it is the most likely for Mio's domain to be the one that boosts their power. Outside of this, the only other ways that the students could have possibly gained this kind of boost in power is ingesting cursed objects, which, if I'm honest, they're likely the remaining Death Womb Paytons here. However, I would put this one as the most unlikely, because eating a Death Payton Womb cursed object here for anyone but Yuji might end up with them in the eternal slumber. And speaking of slumber,
領域展開無料空所
Today's video is sponsored by Manta Sleep. Manta Sleep is a sleep and mask company dedicated to getting you the best night's sleep possible. If you've been around this channel for a long enough time and in my community for a long enough time, you constantly know that I am decimating my sleep schedule in favor of either making videos, streaming, or playing games. I'm on an absolute degenerate sleeping schedule. However, over the past week, this mask has actually legitimately helped me sort out my sleeping pattern to normal functioning adult hours, which is actually kind of juicy, to be honest with you. Manta Sleep offer a range of masks. Personally, I use the Sleep Row. It has nice little eyeball cups here, but if you're not feeling those, they have a range of other masks here. This thing is OP for giving you the absolute 100% blackout sleep. You don't see a peep of light through this thing, and it's quite nice. Make sure to use code WEEB or click the link in the description there to get yourself 10% off your purchase. And once again, thanks so much to Manta Sleep for the sponsorship. Now back to the video. Do you think Yuji will get a domain in this fight? Honestly, I'm not 100% sure. The Yuji agenda aside, and the filthy Yuji agenda I've been pushing over the past couple of weeks, inside of me, I kind of want to say yes, but also at the same time, I kind of want to say no. I don't think Gege is going to be that nice, quite personally. However, if Yuji was to get a domain, I think it would go something a lot similar to how Megami was put into one at the beginning of the series, and in which case, Sukuna ends up pushing Yuji possibly to the brink of death before Yuji decides, fuck it, I'm gonna try it, and does something crazy. As for what that domain could be, I don't even know, because we spent the entire series on this channel trying to figure out what the fuck his curse technique is, and now we've arrived at that point. I'm still skeptical that it is even his actual curse technique, because I'm still yet to see the words Yuji Itadori and curse technique in the same sentence on any of these manga panels, so I'm very, very skeptical. But ultimately, I don't think it will happen. But hey, I'm kind of famous for giving wild theories and being completely and utterly wrong around these parts. So if I say it's not gonna happen, it could happen. Who knows? Maybe I'm jinxing it. Do you think this is the final battle, or do we have at least one more arc? I'm gonna be 100% real life answer here, not copium filled. And I've said this so many times across videos and streams, and I don't know, wherever I've seen it, but until I see that official announcement from Shonen Jump announcing that this series is coming to a close soon, I refuse to believe it. And obviously that is not what you asked, but it kind of ties into my answer here, because I believe right now we are in the what I would call the co-main event of the evening. Shout out Bruce Buffer there. I think this means Yuji and Yuta right now will probably bring us our first victory against Sukuna. I've talked about this a few times now, but I think Sukuna is in a genuinely really precarious situation as far as this fight goes right now. We have a dude who is ultimately powerful, but he is absolutely getting bogged down by just a sheer overwhelming numbers of curse techniques and 3 hard-hitting motherfuckers pushing him into a corner. So I could genuinely see them pushing Sukuna out of Megami's body and clutching the fight right now. But ultimately, I do think Sukuna will end up being pushed out of the body fully, but then will end up taking over Tengen's body or somehow trigger the merger. I'm not entirely sure. I made this video here if you want to go and check out what I've talked about in that section there. Do you think if Yuji hits a black flash on Sukuna, it'd be similar to how he separated Mahito from his transformation as he fully destroyed that transformation with his final black flash? And it maybe cause Sukuna's transformation to revert back to the body of Megami Fushiguro. Well, honestly, I've not even actually thought about that. I'm going to keep it a stack with you. But I genuinely wouldn't rule it out, because as a possibility, considering Sukuna has already referenced that fight and said that this attack, the Soul Rip and Punch, is the same logic as the same effective attacks against the Patchface Care Spirit, I think it kind of makes the most sense. However, I really fuck with the possibility of both Yuji and Yuta hitting a black flash on Sukuna that would force Sukuna out of Megami's body if we did go down that route. Because don't forget, just like Yuji here, Yuta also has a lot of knowledge on the soul. After all, Yuta was able to subconsciously retain Rika's soul, and we know we're at a point now in the series where both Yuji and Yuta are aware of their powers, and Yuta has had a full year to develop his powers even further, and that brother was already a special grade before he even received any sort of training. So to think of Yuji as someone who can push souls away and Yuta as someone who can detain them, it's kind of like push-pull opposites. It's kind of interesting to see how that is. Do you think Yuta will actually manage to copy Limitless without the 6-hash just to prove Sukuna wrong? Honestly, I've talked about this possibility a lot over the past couple of months. I've talked about these in videos. I also talked about it in these 2 videos. But yes, I fully believe Yuta will be able to pull it out of the bag. However, I don't think it would be anything like him using Infinity, but I would rather see him using an application of maybe even blue or red, maybe just once off here, considering we saw him in this panel using 2 techniques with both Sky Manipulation and Cleave. He was dual wielding katanas at this panel here. Yuta might even be able to pull out the purple on Sukuna just for the fucking shits and giggles. And honestly, I would genuinely love to see that. I would love to just see the look on Sukuna's face, because when you look at that final panel on the last chapter of 250, Sukuna was absolutely disgusted that he was being hit with his own curse technique. This brother was in absolute shambles, and I actually think as we go into 251 here, we might actually get our first hints and looks at Sukuna, who is going to be an enraged or disgusted type beat. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. That is everything from me. Massive shout out to all the members on the channel recently. You guys have been going really fucking hard, and you've been helping to keep the dream alive. So if you see your name on the credits for this video, that means you got an absolutely massive PP. Once again, also a massive shout out to Manta Sleep for sponsoring the video. But as always, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys all in the next one. Much fucking love. Big fucking kisses. Peace.